Mr. John Walker. The Creighton Blue Jays are taking on the West Virginia Mountaineers. But take me home, country road. John, how you doing?
Hey, I'm good. Is there a better song to start the morning?
Ooh,
not at all. Or to end a game.
Probably "Morning Is Broken" by Cat Stevens, but I think this is very much a close second. And when we're talking about close seconds, let's start talking about the Creighton Blue Jays, who are currently in third place in the Big East. And I'll start off this way. I know they got a big game tonight against Xavier, but I want to get your overall outlook, John, of the Big East, which has been playing really, really good basketball as of late. Is St. John's, are they the best team in the league right now?
I think talent-wise, yes.
Okay.
Their Achilles heel all season has been their three-point shooting. They're shooting like sub 30% as a team, which is super tough. But that makes it all the more impressive that they are they played last night, so now they're 9-1 in the league, 18-3 overall. Like, they have won 7 straight. Their only loss since Thanksgiving was to Creighton in Omaha.
Yeah.
That's a pretty solid resume.
Yeah, I mean, and by the way, not only did they just win yesterday, they absolutely beat the brakes off of Georgetown. It was an incredibly impressive victory. And talking about impressive victories, we have to talk about Creighton's opponent tonight, the Xavier Musketeers. They're coming off of massive wins toward the top. They beat UConn. They beat Marquette. They are now currently slotted as the first 4 out. With a win tonight, they will most likely put themselves in the conversation of being the first or last 4 in. What do you expect tonight from Xavier? What can fans expect tonight at the CHI Health Center?
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting because Xavier loves to drive the lane, loves to get to the rim. Whether it's to obviously lay it in, to slam it home, or to draw enough fouls to get to the free throw line, line, which they get a lot of production from. So it's going to be kind of the, with him wanting to get to the rim and Ryan Kalkbrenner hanging around it, it's going to be the kind of unstoppable force, immovable object deal. But I think this is really interesting because if you think back to, I don't know, let's say a month ago even, because Creighton had not played St. John's yet, we were sitting here saying, man, for Creighton to flip its season around, for Creighton to be a tournament team, it has to pick up a couple of these marquee wins atop the league. And now that is the exact spot that Xavier is in.
Sure. Yeah.
And so it'll be really interesting to see if Creighton can be on the opposite side of that desperation, if you will, and be able to hold off Xavier.
It's almost like the hunter becomes the hunted, right? And it's but if you were to trust any coach to kind of switch that mindset around and be the one that is manning Creighton's bench right now, for sure.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I can't remember if we talked about it last week or what, but a guy who, is certainly in the conversation, if not the front runner for Big East Coach of the Year.
John, the Jays starting to get hot. Is it a matter of they're figuring it out, or is Mac doing some different things here since they kind of were going through it a few weeks ago?
No, I wrote about this a little bit last week in the build up to the Seton Hall game. They are so good in January, just historically. Under Mac, and he joked about it last week, and he said, some of it might be dumb luck. Obviously they don't control how the schedule falls or how a team's playing on any given night. So sure, I get that, but when you've had as much success as they have had consistently as they've had in January, it's no luck. I think team or guys are starting to settle into their role on this team. They usually do that around, I don't know, mid-December, late December, certainly early January when conference play gets going. But that was delayed a little bit this year.
Yeah.
When Pop Isaacs went out and everybody kind of had to readjust. So
Sure.
no, Mac tightens his rotation. Once they really get into conference play, he's done that a little bit. It's been somewhat different because they're trying to integrate Fedor as well. Still keep Mason out there. Isaac Trout has developed into a heck of a sixth man. But needless to say, all of those roles are being defined, and they're all settling into them. And I think that's really helped Creighton turn things around.
So, John, it's incredible the journey this team has gone on through narratives, right? And I know, I mean, you are one of the best, if not the best, at writing that and articulating that to readers. But let's start from the beginning, right? It began the season well. You lose all these guys. You lose Alexander. You lose Shireman. But hey, you still got Kalk. You still got Ashworth, and you have Pop Isaacs, right? They go on the season. They have some ups and downs, but they beat Kansas. And you're like, hey, like this is the team that we thought beginning of the season it could be. Maybe they're better than we expected. Pop goes down. Then it turns into, okay, if this team is going to win games, you're going to need Jemiah Neal to have a great night every single night. And if he doesn't, and by the way, it's already spoken for that Kalkbrenner and Ashworth have to have great nights every single night for them to win games. Those three have to have great nights in order for them to just get into the tournament. Not even talking about making the tournament. Now we've seen, and Jemiah didn't have a great game his last outing, but we've seen Jemiah take that step, and he's looking better and better, and he's red hot. But now you got guys like Zugic. You got guys like Trout who are stepping up, who are playing better. You got guys like Jackson McAndrew. And now is it out of the realm of possibility? Am I buying in too much of the hype here, John, with if these guys, especially off the bench with Zugic and Trout, continue to play the way they play, is this turning into a team who 4 weeks ago we were saying may not make the tournament to they could make the second weekend? Or am I getting ahead of the curve here?
No, I don't think it's out of the question that they could make the second weekend at all. Greg McDermott would be the first person to tell you, and I'd agree. I think most people would. Probably 80% of that depends on the draw you get.
Yeah.
Like if they get a draw where they have to play, let's say, if they're in an 8-9 matchup and they have to play Gonzaga and the winner gets Auburn,
yeah,
like you really want that to be your pass to the second weekend?
Sure,
absolutely not.
Yeah, but you can get a draw where you get like a back end Big Ten team if you're a 7 seed, and then you get Marquette, who you've played plenty already, who you've been competitive. It's a great point.
So I think this team, it's going to be super, super, super hard because the non-con went as poorly as it did.
Yeah.
Kansas aside. But if this team could climb to a 6 seed, even a 7 seed, if they could slide into that 7-10 matchup, they could get a pretty advantageous draw.
And nobody's going to want to play them.
No.
John,
No.
The significance of that road win at UConn, I know it's not the same UConn as the past 2 years, but they're not exactly chopped liver. And it seemed like that signaled sort of a turning point that this team saw, this is what we could be. And it's a different narrative as we've gone forward since.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I've said this for a little bit now that the team Creighton or the UConn that Creighton sees in Omaha in a couple of weeks is not, well, I should say likely will not be the team that Creighton saw in stores a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Liam McNeely will probably be back and about as fresh as you could be coming off of an ankle sprain in February at that point. And then that'll obviously open up things for Alex Caravan. So it'll be different. But nonetheless, it was a big win because as Greg McDermott has since said, when you tell guys, hey, this is your role. This is your role. I just need you to do this. If you can do this, you'll be okay. And then they go out and get a win like that in that place against that team. Well, then you start to believe, oh, okay, maybe this guy knows what he's talking about.
Sure.
And so it only takes one of those.
Yeah.
And the Kansas game was kind of that. But then as you said, everything kind of got derailed when Pop went down, 48 hours later. And so that UConn win I think maybe the St. John's one too, but certainly winning at UConn. It was one of those wins that kind of makes you, you see it, you believe it.
Yeah, you start buying in, and it's so weird, John. Like that Kansas win, like it's not going to go away. It's a quad one win. It's going to be on the resume, but it's almost like it didn't even count because you're like, well, we're not that team, like we're different now.
Yeah.
So they had to like recover from that essentially, and I think it was a great insight by you that typically you see the teams come on a little bit earlier than they have this season, but this season they suffered an injury where they had to completely change what they were doing in terms of who was handling what. John Walker, Creighton beat writer, the Omaha World-Herald. All right, great Creighton talk so far. Let's transition a little bit. I know I asked you about St. John's. I want to ask you about another team at the top of the league, Marquette. Give me your take on them. I've been watching a little bit of the Golden Eagles here, and they're winning games, but it's getting a little dicey. Last night, it got a little dicey. They beat the brakes off of Seton Hall, but before that, they lost to Xavier. They nearly lost to DePaul. It wasn't necessarily a blowout against Georgetown, and even Creighton, dating all the way back to the beginning of the month, that was a game that you could argue that if Ryan Kalkbrenner and Stephen Ashworth shoot better, that Creighton should have won. Yeah. So what are you looking at with Shaka Smart's crew? And they got a great trio, but what's your outlook on this team?
Yeah, I think they're going to be super tough because they're super parodic. Like they have a lot of parity on offense.
Yes.
I think last night showed what they beat.
It beat Butler yesterday.
They beat Butler.
Yeah.
Cam Jones picked up his third foul early in the second half. Sat a lot of the bench in the second half, and it didn't matter. They still found a way to score, still found a way to win. Marquette is currently, I think, top 25 in offense and defensive rating on KenPom.
Wow.
That's a recipe for success. I just think that they have so many options on offense. They have the experience. Like they've only had 7 different starters over the last 3 seasons.
Wow.
That is insane.
Insane.
And 2 of those guys are in the NBA. In Tyler Kolek and Oso Ighodaro. So it's absolutely nuts. They have the experience together. They have the offensive firepower, and they have a couple of scrappy, hard-nosed, on-ball defenders. Kind of led by, depending on who you ask,
sure, Big
East Defensive Player of the Year candidate, at least, Stevie Mitchell. So, no, whatever side somebody falls on in the Kalkbrenner Stevie Mitchell argument, which has obviously sparked a lot of debate.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
It's still it's still a pretty stout defense from Marquette. So I think that they have a little bit of everything going. I really do.
Yeah.
They're going to be tough to beat.
All right, we're going to get you out of here on this. Do you think the rest of the Big East and the rest of just the country is waiting for McNeely to come back and UConn just absolutely turn it on? I mean, like, how much fear do people still have in UConn? And is there, where would you rank 3 straight national championships in a row amongst sport accomplishments?
Like if UConn did it?
If UConn did it.
If UConn did it this season, all things considered, with one, how good the who's who of the country is.
Yeah.
We're talking about the Auburns, the Tennessees, the Kentuckys,
the Iowa States,
the Houstons.
Yeah.
Like as good as the top of the country is, as much as UConn has struggled, it would be incredible if they somehow won back-to-back national championships. I don't think it happens this year.
Okay.
I think the thing with them last year was like they were so competitive. Every single person in their lineup like played with a vengeance almost, or at least defended with a vengeance.
Sure.
And they just don't have that 1 through 5 this year like they did last year. And so no, they're waiting on McNeely to come back. There's absolutely no doubt about it. But I don't. They'll probably be better as a team. Obviously, we're talking about McNeely being a Big East Freshman of the Year candidate, probably the front runner if I had to guess. But they've got some issues bigger than Liam McNeely. So we'll see.
We'll see. We'll see. Don't turn your back on me. I'm the best effing coach in the country. We'll tell you someone who doesn't turn your back. I'll tell you someone who doesn't turn their back on us. That's Mr. John Walker, the Omaha World-Herald, every Wednesday, 9 a.m. Thank you so much, Johnny. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Always the best. Always the best. John Walker, Omaha World-Herald. Man,